Hi, Islamic Dad here. If you enjoy this channel, please subscribe. It does help me out a lot. I'm not in a particularly good mood, but I thought I'd make a video. I very often, when I do searches for narcissism and related topics, a question that I'll see a lot is about karma, which really is a head scratcher for me. And so I thought I'd, address that. So just to start right off, karma is a concept out of, say, an Eastern religion and culture. Originally Hinduism, out of India. And so once you start looking at that through the lens of, say, Western culture, Christianity, right off the bat, you're just wrong. I mean, it's like watching a movie with blue tinted glasses and wondering why things look odd. I mean, it's because you're not looking at things from the right perspective. So because of the Western tradition, especially how it relates to Christianity, we're obsessed with this idea of punishment. I mean, I could do a whole video on that, and and to make ourselves feel better, we like to label it justice. And so that's where most people come from when they're asking this question. And if you go back, 4,000 years and look at, the beginnings of Hinduism and India and stuff like that, they're not obsessed with these issues or looking at life from that perspective. And so take everything that you know about, say, justice, punishment, throw it out the window. Throw it out the window. It has nothing to do with karma. Okay, blank piece of paper. Let's start fresh. The correct way, I would argue, to think of karma is natural consequences. If you fall in the river, you're going to get wet. In the spring, leaves sprout on the trees, they thrive, and then in the fall, they will die and fall off the tree. If you have a boulder way high up on a mountain and you push it, that boulder is going to roll down the mountain. If you step on a rattlesnake, it's going to bite you. I hope you see where I'm going. Like, none of the things I've mentioned have anything to do with justice or punishment. They're simply natural consequences. If you turn the stove on and then you leave and come back 10 minutes later and put your hand on the stove, you're going to get burned. That's not because you're a bad person or because God wants to hurt you or something like that. It's just simply the natural consequence of putting your hand on a hot stove top. So when people talk about, karma and the narcissist and stuff, it's out of this weird place where they want to see the narcissist punished. Right there, if that's where you are, go to your therapist. I mean, you've got some stuff to work through. So, I'm not saying you're wrong. You may have very, very, very legitimate reasons why you want to see that narcissist punished. But the fact that that's where your mind is, and the fact that you're like Googling narcissists and karma, that should be a warning sign of where you're putting your energy, and you could probably benefit from therapy. So let me try to like answer the question now that we've kind of corrected what karma actually means. And the truth is, well, yes and no. As other people have noticed, narcissists are like cats. They always land on their feet. I mean, it is weird. I mean, I've made, other comments about these like superpowers that narcissists have. And one of them seems to be their ability to just always land on their feet. And by always, I mean 90% of the time. They will fall on their ass occasionally. But most of the time, they can be the worst, most emotionally abusive, manipulative person in the world, just leaving a wake of destruction behind them, and just show up fresh as daisies with a new supply, ready to love bomb and go, riding off into the sunset. And so, it seems like for the most part, in like day-to-day life, narcissists always land on their feet. So in that respect, I don't know to what extent you could say karma is involved there, because it doesn't seem like they are facing the consequences of their actions. The one part that I would point out, though, and if you've like read on the topic or studied this on your own, is that ultimately, the starting point for the narcissist is absolute misery. They go through life as this black hole, looking for distraction, looking for something to fill the void, fill the boredom, give them validation that they even exist. Because when they're alone by themselves, it's just black. It's just a hole. There's nothing there, and it terrifies them. It absolutely terrifies them. And so maybe in that respect, you can say, the consequence comes before the action when it comes to narcissists, and that they're already, quote, being punished before they start, wreaking havoc upon everyone. Going forward, inevitably the narcissist is going to reach a place where they have burned so many bridges and destroyed so many lives that they really don't have anyone left in their life. And that the few people that they come across, typically if the narcissist is aged, the narcissist is going to be so desperate and intense with their, attempts to, strike up a friendship or love bomb and then devalue, that I think most people are going to be scared away very quickly, much more quickly than they were earlier on in their life. And so I think the, comeuppance is very much what other people have written about, is that as the narcissist ages, they get worse. And both externally and internally. I feel that, like, I would assume that, like, that pain, that boredom, that void, that shame that they carry within themselves increases as they get older, because they can't escape it. I mean, you might have a 60-year-old narcissist and they've been trying to escape themselves for 50 years. that's, I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to even wake up in the morning being in that place. And I feel that like that comes out in a type of desperation as the narcissist gets older, to the point where they're just clawing for any validation, anyone that they can latch onto. But that desperation, one, scares most people away, and two, even the ones that they're able to sink their claws into, that the narcissist is going to cycle through the phases of the relationship so quickly that they're just going to burn out and utterly destroy the relationship, and probably half the time, a third of the time that it may have been earlier. And so I think it goes without saying that like I would expect that the vast majority of narcissists are going to die alone, unmourned, and unloved. I don't even know if their family, to what extent, would want anything to do with them. Not simply because the narcissist by then would be so horrible to be around, but typically by that point, most family members have just cut the narcissist off because they're just this negative energy in their lives, and people are just like, no, life is too short to have uncle narcissist in my life, because he's just horrible. He's a horrible lying, manipulative person, and I'm sorry to hear he's on his deathbed, but I'm gonna go have a picnic with my loved ones. So in that respect, I think that the narcissist does reap what they sow. It's just going to take a lifetime. And this lifetime of lying, gaslighting, manipulation, abuse, leaving just a wake of shattered dreams, destroyed families, broken relationships behind them, that as they reach old age, they will die alone. And when I say alone, I mean, I don't just mean externally. I mean that emptiness inside of them has been growing for decades, and they're probably not counting down the days. They're probably not even counting down the hours or the minutes. They are counting down the seconds, because that's how much they crave supply, distraction, anything to take them away from the overwhelming pain of existence. So in that respect, yeah, I think ultimately the narcissist does see karma. So hopefully this video has been helpful. Thanks.